What's going on, guys? It's Noah here with Youngblood MMA, and today we'll be going over every pick and prediction on every preliminary bout on UFC 311 Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan 2. And if you haven't yet, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more MMA content. We're going to get right in the UFC flyweight division. We have Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. And you know, Tagir Ulanbekov, this guy is dangerous on the ground. And he's got a variety of submissions as well. He's well-rounded. He's got solid striking. You know, his downside is, you know, he can be pretty hittable. So he's going to have to be, you know, mindful of that in regards to defense. You know, Clayton Carpenter, he's the undefeated prospect, and he's a finisher. You know, he's got 4 submissions in 8 fights, including 2 in the UFC. And he's explosive. He's looking to end the fight early. But the one thing is that he is relatively inexperienced at the highest level. I think Ulanbekov's, he's going to control the pace. He's going to look for opportunities to take the fight to the ground. And Carpenter will probably be looking to exploit any openings and try to submit Ulanbekov himself. And I think it's in his best interest to impose his game plan as soon as possible. And, you know, for this, I'm picking Ulanbekov. You know, he's got the experience. He has the preparation for a fight with Clayton Carpenter. I don't think they should have matched these guys up, to be honest. You know, Ulanbekov clearly deserves to fight up the rankings. And personally, you know, I would have loved to see Clayton Carpenter slow down a little bit, work his way up, and, you know, preserving his undefeated record. So, you know, it'll be very impressive if Clayton Carpenter can pull this off. My jaw will straight up be on the floor. Yeah, anyway, let's move on to the next fight on the card in the UFC bantamweight division. We got Ricky Turcios versus Bernardo Sopaj. And, you know, Ricky Turcios, right? He's a durable fighter. He can go the distance and he can absorb a lot of punishment. But, you know, he's a striker with very, very low accuracy. It's like 37%. So for a striker, that's absolute trash. You know, he's been vulnerable to takedowns and submissions in the past, and he's pretty much decisioned his way throughout his whole career. You know, I'm surprised he's done as well as he's done in the UFC, just edging out fights. But, you know, Bernardo Sopaj, he's a tough guy too, and it was kind of hard finding more information on him other than the one fight that he has on his UFC record. But he is a tough guy too. He's got some nice KOs in his past fights before the UFC. 7 records, all 7 of them were first round finishes. He's a durable guy as well. You know, he could take a lot of shots and stay in the fight. The more I study this matchup, the more I realize why he's a negative 380 favorite. He only has 1 fight and 1 loss in the UFC, and that's to the one and only Vinicius Oliveira, who he basically outperformed for a majority of 3 rounds until he got, you know, KO'd via flying knee. So that's a pretty big deal. You know, Vinicius Oliveira has been making a name for himself on his short run so far in the UFC. And, you know, I think Sopaj makes easy work of Turcios. Turcios is going to have to up his game. He's going to have to land as accurately as he possibly can and use his 5-inch reach advantage to his advantage. And hopefully he outpoints Sopaj over 3 rounds, but I just don't think that that's possible. Who knows if he'll make it 3 rounds. Sopaj is going to be looking to land those power shots and finish the fight as early as possible. So, you know, if Sopaj can get inside and he lands those powerful shots, I think he's going to finish this fight early. And I think as early as round 1. Another bout in the UFC bantamweight division, we have Rinya Nakamura versus Muin Gafurov. And, you know, Rinya Nakamura, he's a road to UFC standout. You know, he's a force to be reckoned with, might I say. You know, I'd consider this guy to be a knockout artist. He hits like a truck. He's got explosive power with every strike that he throws. And he's incredibly athletic, too. He's exciting to watch. You know, his defense could be a little sloppy at times, and he might need to work on his cardio to go the distance with top contenders. So, you know, Muin Gafurov, he was a winner on the Contender Series. He's a well-rounded fighter, and, you know, he's technical. He's technical on the feet. He's got a solid jab. You know, his grappling's pretty dangerous. He's got submissions from all over, but I think he might lack the knockout power to, you know, finish fights spectacularly. And, you know, his defense has shown some cracks as well in recent bouts, especially against powerful strikers like Nakamura. He didn't perform very well in one championship. He did turn it around in his 2 fights with LFA. So, you know, I think Nakamura will likely come out aggressive. He's going to be looking to land those explosive punches. He's going to look to finish the fight early. And Gafurov, on the other hand, is going to try to outstrike Nakamura and look for opportunities to take the fight to the ground. And he might even attempt to unleash his submission game. We're going to see, but we haven't seen Gafurov get knocked out in his pro career. But I think Nakamura will make easy work of Gafurov, and I am predicting Nakamura to win by KO. Next up on the card, we have Rosa versus Perez. And honestly, for a women's bantamweight fight, I think this is going to be a fun matchup. Rosa, she's a seasoned and well-rounded fighter with a strong base. She's a technical striker, isn't exactly knocking people out, but she's got good accuracy, maybe not so much on power, but she's decisioned out every fight in her UFC career, which also means, she hasn't been finished. So that's a positive. We got to look on the bright side, right, guys? So, at least yet. So, while her grappling is solid, her submission defense, it could be improved, and she's going to really need that if she's going to be facing off with Perez. She's durable. She can go the distance, but she's coming off a couple of those losses to top contenders like Norma Dumont, Irene Aldana. Perez, on the other hand, she's a rising star. She's got fantastic grappling skills. Her takedowns are crisp. She maintains great pressure on top control, and she's always looking to find that submission. On the downside, her striking still needs some work. She can sometimes get caught in exchanges, and I predict that Rosa will likely try to keep it standing using her technical striking to pick Perez apart. But ultimately, Perez is going to be looking for the takedown at every opportunity. She's going to take Rosa to the canvas, and, that will happen. If not on the first attempt, definitely on the next. And if she doesn't lock in a submission, she's going to just continue to steal rounds from Rosa via control time. I think will take this fight to a decision and secure a 4-fight win streak. And I think that means she'll have a significant bump up in the rankings, considering that Rosa is ranked 9 and Perez is ranked at 13. Next up, we got a potential grappling clinic coming up with Grant Dawson taking on Diego Ferreira. And these two lightweight grapplers are both incredibly skilled on the ground. This fight has potential to be a chess match. Dawson is the younger and more aggressive fighter between the two. He's a submission artist with a knack for finding those rear naked chokes. He got quite a few submissions by rear naked choke. Pretty much all submissions, rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke. Trying to say that 5 times fast. His striking, though, can be a bit suspect. We've seen some cardio concerns in the past. Ferreira, he's a seasoned fighter. He's got great jiu-jitsu. He's incredibly slick on the ground. He's got a dangerous submission game of his own. We've been recently seeing him lock in a few KO wins. He's an absolute killer. He had a killer year in 2024. We saw him securing impressive victories over Michael Johnson, Mateusz Rebecki. I imagine he'll be using that to ride this wave that he's been on and capitalize on openings in the stand-up and on the ground. And, let's be honest, his cardio might not be what it used to be, but we could see Dawson come out aggressive, looking to pressure Ferreira and get the fight to the ground as early as possible. And Ferreira, he's probably going to try to counter with strikes, look for opportunities in the clinch, and take Dawson down himself. So, I think if the fight hits the canvas like I'm anticipating, I expect they'll stay on the ground for the duration of the round, unless, one of them can outskill the other in the grappling game and submit the other. At the end of the day, I'm picking Grant Dawson to take home a win here. He's more assertive in the cage. He's got more accurate striking and more successful in finishing takedowns. Yeah, I think defensively, Ferreira, he has an advantage there in the defense, but I think Ferreira's clear path to victory is possibly finding an opening on Grant Dawson, and we'll see if I'm wrong and, Ferreira finishes the fight. But personally, I believe Grant Dawson, he's going to have the better moments, in the midst of multiple stalemates. And if Ferreira can't find his openings in this particular bout, like I'm suspecting, I think Dawson takes this to a decision in his favor. So we're going to take a step up into the legit prelims. Okay, next up on the card, and this is an interesting fight. It's Zachary Reese versus Tsarukyan Dumas, and is an interesting matchup they decided to go with. But here's the thing, Zachary Reese, he's had like 3 fights in the UFC since he appeared on the Contender Series, totaling only 7 minutes, 9 seconds of fight time altogether. So really not a whole lot of fight footage on him that I was able to really put together and get a good read on, which made this pretty challenging. He's got a few highlight reel KOs. He's got a good chance of getting a finish there in the first rounds. If he can't get it in round 1, I lack faith that he'll be able to, string in rounds 2 or 3. He went to decision with Jose Medina, which is not that impressive. Medina really isn't that good. I doubt he'll be in the UFC for too long, but same could be said about Dumas' decision win over Dennis Tululin. I think I'm going to have to pick the underdog on this fight. Dumas has been tested. He's out-grappled Cody Brundage. The thing is, though, we haven't seen a lot of Zachary Reese. I think he's got more of a finishing instinct. He had 1 loss, and it was against Cody Brundage, who he nearly had a triangle choke on and then ended up getting TKO'd by getting slammed into the canvas. So I'm thinking, would this happen again? What are the odds? I don't think that's likely to happen again. I'm expecting for the killer instinct to come out in both fighters. They both have strong finishing rates. I am expecting a finish indefinitely. God, this is tricky to predict. Similar experience levels, Dumas has defended 2 out of every 5 takedowns attempted. Hasn't been KO'd in any pro fights. I keep changing my mind going back and forth, but and I'm changing my mind again. I think I'm picking Zachary Reese via round 1 finish. And any finish will do. I'm locking that one in. We've got a heavyweight bout brewing between Jailton Almeida and Sergey Spivac. And this one has the potential to end quick and painful, not quick and easy. We got 2 fighters that both have substantial records at heavyweight. And they're often overlooked in my opinion. I actually could see Almeida entering the title picture very soon. This guy's a grappling machine. His wrestling's absolutely dominant, and his submission game is even better. While striking's still a work in progress, I think he's shown improvements. And Almeida has only had 1 loss in the UFC altogether, and it came last year at UFC 299, Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera, and he took that loss against Curtis Blaydes. I thought he looked great in round 1, and then came in round 2. He got KO'd later in round 2 where he was looking exhausted. It just gives me some concern regarding cardio if we find ourselves in the latter rounds. That's going to be a sticky situation for both these guys, I think, but fortunately, I think we're going to end this one real quick. On the other hand, we got Sergey Spivac. He's a powerful striker, and he's got an excellent reach. He's also shown surprising submission skills. He's showcased his well-rounded game. His wrestling defense, it needs some work. It's his biggest weakness, and it's the worst matchup for someone like Jailton Almeida. And Almeida's going to be exploiting that. Spivac is coming off a big win over Marcin Tybura like 4 months ago, and he won by submission in that fight, avenging a previous loss. Both Almeida and Spivac, they're both going to end the fight early. We know this, so we could see an explosive first round, and that might be the only round that we see of this matchup. I don't see this fight going the distance whatsoever, and I love this fight, honestly. I'm picking Almeida to get this done. Next up, we got a fascinating matchup this weekend here with Youngblood Peyton Talbot, and he's taking on the veteran Raoni Barcelos. Talbot's on a great trajectory right now. He's plodding forward into stardom in the bantamweight division, and he's for sure a rising star. This kid's explosive. He's got devastating striking power, and he's only 26 years old. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for him, the years ahead in the UFC, and he's got a ton of room to grow here. He's still relatively inexperienced. He's only had 9 pro fights in his career. His grappling does need some work. He's currently coming off of a 1-round KO against Giannis Gamori, who is 0-2 in his UFC career. Seems to me the UFC is attempting to prop him up based off of finishes against some lower level fighters, and now we see him against a 37-year-old Barcelos, who I believe is at his peak prime, that Brazilian prime. And Barcelos, he's a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. He's got some good finishes early in his career. He's coming off of a submission win after getting KO'd by Umar Nurmagomedov. And he's got a ton of experience. He's got elite grappling skills. He's got dangerous submissions. However, his striking isn't his strong suit. And there are some questions regarding his cardio in later rounds. So, this will be an interesting matchup. We can either lean towards Barcelos fraud checking Peyton Talbot, or we could just look at the fact that Umar knocked him out. Do you guys think Peyton Talbot can knock out Barcelos if Umar Nurmagomedov did? Because I sure do. I think Talbot's going to be looking to use his speed. He's going to be looking to use his power to overwhelm Barcelos. Likely, Barcelos will be trying to control the pace. He's going to be looking to exploit the grappling opportunities and grind out a victory. But it's a lot harder to slow down a fight than it is to pick up the pace and pressure your opponent to think and move faster than they are willing to handle. An object that motion stays in motion, and I think that sets up Peyton Talbot to find his moments, get into his flow state, which Talbot finds rather quickly and frequently. I am picking Talbot to get a knockout in round 2 or round 3. And last but not least, we have the headlining bout for the preliminary card. Johnny Walker is back in the octagon, and this time he is facing Bogdan Guskov. Now, I know what you're thinking. What are they doing to Johnny Walker? Are they trying to ruin this guy's career? And, frankly, I've been wondering that myself. This is like another tough matchup for Walker. And it feels like the UFC is just throwing him into the wolves. And I swear the UFC is doing this guy dirty, But let's talk about Guskov. This guy's a beast. He's durable. He's got great wrestling. And he's coming off a big win against Ryan Spann. So this is going to be his 4th fight in the UFC, his 2nd ranked opponent. So what are we looking for in this fight? Well, Walker's explosive striking is always a threat. That's something to consider. But then I wonder, can he keep it together for 3 rounds? Guskov's wrestling could be a major problem for Walker as well. So ultimately, I think this fight could go either way. Walker has the power to end it all with one shot, but I think also Guskov has the tools to grind him down and take home a victory. So risky fight for sure for Walker, especially after coming back so soon after 2 KO losses back-to-back. I think he's only taken 5-6 months off since his last KO against Volkan Ozdemir. Like I said, it's a risky fight for Walker to take, but I think it's also a great opportunity for him to prove that he's still a force to be reckoned with in light heavyweight. And, at the end of the day, we're looking at a more experienced Johnny Walker versus a far more durable Guskov. This is a fight that should be a layup for Guskov if he shows up on fight night. Guskov has 2 routes to finish this fight too. He's got hands as well. I imagine Guskov is going to be looking to stay close, either in the clinch or go to the ground, where I imagine he will be looking to capitalize on Walker's chinniness, and he's going to be looking to go for a knockout via ground and pound. That's my pick. I'm picking Guskov for the win here. I'm feeling pretty confident that this is going to be a tough night for Johnny Walker. That's the video for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out my picks and predictions video on UFC 311 main card. I picked 2 underdogs in that video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more content on the UFC. And I'll be sure to see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned.